Hi, it's Pete Nordsted here, and welcome to another Trade on Sports and Focused on Football betting podcast. As usual, I'm joined by Jimmy Kempton. How are you doing, Jimmy?
All good, thanks, Peter. And I must say, these early starts, it's a good job we're not recording these 20 or so years ago. We'd have been up bloody hours ago sorting our hair out. But thankfully, that is not a problem anymore. We can do these 6 a.m. starts without any concerns about our flowing locks and not looking at their best.
Yes, well, obviously this week the Premier League starting, and obviously we had the opener last week, Arsenal against Manchester City in the Community Shield, and obviously Arsenal, looking, you know, like they're going to be title favourites and deserved title favourites.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I've written a piece for the Substack column this week about Arsenal's game against Coventry, and in there I do mention I'm not too sure whether that says more about Manchester City this season and a bit of uncertainty about them moving forward rather than potentially Arsenal's dominance. But I have to say, for a side that's sort of resting a few starters, as they come back in from the World Cup campaign, they looked a pretty solid unit, Pete. It's going to be tough for anybody to overthrow them over the course of a 38 game season, I think.
Yeah, on the podcast side of things and Substack, how's that going, Jimmy?
Yeah, really good subscriber numbers, increasing Substack handle at Jimmy Kempton Bets. I'm still really getting to grips with how it works, Pete, all this scheduling of articles and stuff. I had a couple of nice winners today, got an article dropping in about 20 minutes. League Two preview of Colchester Oldham this week. Lots of articles, daily updates and that from me. So yeah, really good, really positive so far. How's trade on sports?
Yes, Trade on Sports. Well, we're still going through the upgrade. The upgrade hasn't quite finished yet. We believe we've got the football sorted, so that's underway. We've got the tennis and the horse racing. We've got a US sports app as well. That's looking good. So it's all coming together, and I believe it won't be as long. Maybe a couple of weeks out now. But obviously the season starts. We still got the old platform, still works. Functionality is still brilliant. So anybody, when that start the season, Trade on Sports, this is the place to go. And also, obviously, if you join now, the price remains the same as you go through. Yeah, but like I say, last week's podcast, I was a bit disappointed with Chesterfield. I thought Chesterfield might do something, but they lost against Fleetwood twice then this opening season in the Carabao Cup and in the league.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Chesterfield in the when we get down to League Two. I'm slightly getting worried about them, Pete. So yeah, a
And it's a
bit
good
disappointed with them.
well, it's a good job as well. I put you off the posh.
You did, yes. Thankfully, your negativity towards your beloved Peterborough saved me a few shekels last weekend. I was quite keen on them plus 3/4, but a resounding 2-0 defeat by the sounds of it from what you said. I take it you
Yeah.
watched the game, did you?
No, I didn't. To be
Oh.
quite honest, I was at Spalding watching Spalding against Oxford City.
Oh, that ended one apiece, did I see?
No, 1-0 to Oxford. But I tell you what, that I bet I went to the game on Tuesday. It was Spalding against Macclesfield, 0-0 draw. Good game. Good
Okay, well, I
game.
bet there's a decent crowd in for that one at the non-league.
Not 920,
Right, okay. A few of
which is
my
not
mates
bad
have
for
played for
Spalding.
Spalding in the time. Obviously not at that higher level, but yeah, so that's a decent gate for a town the size of Spalding.
Yeah, I would say anybody in the Spalding area, if you like your football, it's a good game. It's a good standard as well. Very good.
Can you have a pint next to the pitch, Pete?
No, well, you can do, yes. I
Oh,
don't drink though.
I might come down and have one with you one night.
Right, let's get started then. We start off with the London Derby, Brentford against Spurs. The game's off scratch. The recent seasons at Brentford, Brentford have won 0. There's been 4 draws. Spurs have won 1. When off scratch, Brentford at home, their recent record reads 1-4, drawn 4, lost 2. And Spurs, when they're a scratch away from home, 1-3, drawn 2, lost 5. When we look at the Premier League over the last 5-6 seasons, scratch 241 matches, 87 home, 61 push, 93 away. So slightly into the away. Very difficult here. My race is suggesting good value, Brentford, but Brentford have only won once in 11. Brentford have only won once in 11 meetings against Tottenham. So, name recognition or not, Spurs look the side to be on.
Yeah, that is the most interesting stat about this game, Pete. Even given Brentford's sort of meteoric rise through the Premier League and their excellent performances, even last season, Brentford have won just one game. Now, when you look at Brentford at home in this spot, they're a reliable old sort, Pete. When they take on teams that finish outside of the top six, they've gone 29, 22, and 14. So effectively off this scratch line, they are 29 and 14 with 22 pushes. Last season, they even went 4-1 and 1 at home to sides that finished in the top six. Now, you'd expect Spurs to be much better this season under De Zerbi, but we don't know. He's getting in the players that probably he wants. Well, we always say, after a transfer window, managers are getting the players in that they want. But are they really these days in the days of sporting directors? Are they just the players that the sporting director wants? So, although there's been some turnover in personnel, we can't really be sure that these players are going to fit into a De Zerbi style. They went 3-2-2 to finish last season. Very early days. You expect, like I say, you expect Spurs to be better. But I have to say, Pete, you look back through history, the last few seasons, even though they've not done well against Spurs, I think the values were Brentford here, mate. I probably
Yeah.
won't be backing it because sometimes I fear these head-to-head sort of histories with no apparent reason.
Yes, we're going to be going through a few head-to-heads in over this podcast. What about Brentford last week? 7-0 against Frankfurt. That's
Yeah,
mental, isn't it?
yeah, incredible, incredible. I mean, you can take pre-season games with a pinch of salt, win, lose,
Yes.
whatever. Who really knows? But I have to say, last season, regular listeners will remember I tipped Brentford up for relegation. I had an egg all over my face. They just seem to be able to transition from manager to manager. Player in a position moves off, sold for big money, and they just bring the next one on the conveyor belt. Their ability to pick up talent, both in the managerial staff and the players, is second to none, really.
Man City Bournemouth next. This is a fixture where Manchester City have been completely dominant. In fact, since 2015, they've won 18 of the 20 meetings. Man City, recent head to heads against Bournemouth at the Etihad, 1-4, drawn naught, lost naught. Coming on, and when they play at home on a -1.25 handicap, 1-7, drawn 2, lost 1. 6 of the 7 were by 2 or more goals. Bournemouth, when they're +1.25 away from home, 1-2, drawn 1, lost 4. Only one of the 4 matches they lost by 2 or more goals. -1.25 goals over the Premier League season, so the last 5-6 Premier League seasons. 117 matches, 76 home wins, 23 draws, 18 away. When you break that down, 49 home, 54.5 away. So lean to the away. Like I say, Manchester City have been dominant in this fixture, and obviously I still think, deserved favourites here. Obviously, both teams have lost, the most successful managers of all time. I can't really call this one on the handicap line, to be honest.
Well, I know one thing for certain, folks. I know last week we spoke about being really wary on opening day in the EFL about what sort of favourites that you side with. I certainly won't be taking any team in the early weeks of the season giving up such a large handicap advantage as Man City giving up here -1.25. You've got players returning from the World Cup. You've got changes in managerial leadership and style. I just want to see what both teams offer moving forward. I think Marco Rose is in a really interesting appointment down at Bournemouth. Really like watching his side play at Dortmund and Leipzig. I think he will probably slide into the Premier League um, almost not unnoticed, but I don't think we'll see too many impacts on the Bournemouth start of play. Um, I'm concerned about Man City, Pete. I mean, bar taking Leicester back to the Premier League, which is no mean feat, I admit. But I'm not sure what Maresca's done to land this job. He failed at Chelsea. Now, Chelsea is a club that's, we all know it's had issues in terms of how it's run. That Leicester squad, though, that he took back to the Premier League was stacked with ability. Jamie Vardy knocked 20 goals in 37 games that season. I reckon I could have got that Leicester squad into the playoffs. and last week, and we know it's just the Community Shield, but for me, some alarm bells are ringing with that 3-0 defeat. You know, I'm not going to say that Man City are going to fall out of the top four or anything because they've got sheer quality in abundance. But I don't think they're going to have it all their own way. And yes, they've been dominant in this fixture. But a concerning thing for me is even when they have been dominant in this fixture, last three games at the Etihad, they've conceded to Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth have scored on each of the last three trips. Yeah, I'm going to swerve this game. And the fact that they conceded every time doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to dive in on the goals here, because last week City seemed to be misfiring a little bit. So is Maresca's style going to mesh with these new players immediately? Very tricky game to call, Pete. I'm keeping well away from it.
Do you think that Bournemouth, with the managerial change, do you think they'll be similar to Brentford and Brighton, where the managerial changes don't seem to make any difference?
Well, I mean, the new manager has had some success and some failure at the top level in his spelling time in charge of clubs like Dortmund and Leipzig. I think moving seamlessly, to be perfectly honest. I think he'll be very organised, knows what he wants from his players, and they seem to have a model that works. And I think I'm going to have to start trusting these smaller, in inverted commas, clubs that have these models until we see that it doesn't work. We've probably got to trust the hierarchy that they are continually getting it right.
Right, Preston against Wolves next. This is the first time the two sides have met in the last 5 seasons. Preston plus half a goal. It's moved from plus three quarters to plus half. Preston, when they're plus half a goal, 1-1, drawn 3, lost 2, coming off a 2-1 defeat away at Bolton. A bit disappointing that result for Preston. Wolves, they're coming off a 2-2 draw against Blackburn. Last minute penalty equaliser there. My ratings did suggest good value, Preston, at plus three quarters. Not so good now, though. Plus half a goal in the Championship over the last 5 seasons. 177 matches, 34 home, 52 draw, 90 away, making that 86 play, 90. Yeah, I would be siding with Preston here, but it's only very weak, to be quite honest. We haven't seen anything really from both sides.
No, and at plus three quarters, I think the home side would have definitely been the angle to look to attack this game from a possibly nervous Wolves going away for the first away game after disappointing on home shore. Preston in the last few seasons against freshly relegated sides have gone 4-7-4 at home. So if you hadn't been getting that plus three quarters, there would have been a little bit of value. Interestingly, the four games that they've lost in this spot in recent seasons, Preston, all came by two or more goals. So if they get beat in this spot, they get beat resoundingly. And Wolves did score twice last week. They did create some chances. And I think it was a really poor defeat for Preston last week. I know there's not much positive optimism around Preston this season and Deepdale. So this is going to be a real barometer, this opening game, as to how they might do. And if they can put a spirited performance in, maybe get a draw or sneak a win, that might help them moving forward. I would, though, still, Pete, be leaning towards the extra quality of Wolves here, minus half a goal. I think we saw enough in that Carabao Cup game when they comfortably brushed Port Vale aside, and the fact that they scored twice last week on opening day against Blackburn to suggest that they will be a decent side at this level moving forward, and I'm not convinced Preston will be.
Here's another game that's got a interesting head-to-head fixtures. Southampton against Stoke. Recent head-to-heads at Southampton. Southampton not one, no draws. Stoke 1-2, minus three quarters the handicap here. When we have a look at historically, Southampton, the head-to-head, Southampton have won 6. There's been 6 draws and Stoke have won 6. You know, these fixtures are not what you sort of think they may be. Anyway, minus three quarters. Southampton went minus three quarters. They've won 7, drawn 3, lost 0. 3 of the 7 victories were 2 or more goals. They're coming up for 2-1 defeat away at Watford. That's a very disappointing, start to see for Southampton. Stoke, when they're plus 3/4 away, not a good record. 1-1 drawn, 2 lost, 7. 5 of the 7 defeats were by 2 or more goals, coming off a 2-1 defeat at home to Swansea. Minus 3/4 in the Championship last 5 seasons, 331 matches, 183 home, 87 draw, 61 away. That makes 139 play, 148. So small, very small lean to the away side. Looking at the two teams the two teams matches, in similar situations, Southampton look to be the side to be on, and possibly the straight win is better than the handicap there. But both sides have started disappointingly.
Have you ever been to Vicarage Road, Peter?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
Did you find it an intimidating cauldron?
not really. No.
No, I've been to Vicarage Road as well. Not to watch Lincoln, but in the past, and it never struck me as an intimidating cauldron. But I had a little bit on Watford last weekend, as I sort of advised on the Substack. I thought there was a lot of things that pointed towards taking Southampton on opening day, and I must say, I won't say it was an intimidating cauldron. It's not exactly the new Den Vicarage Road, but all this Spygate stuff, Pete, has really galvanised supporters against Southampton. I think they're going to have 23 really difficult away games. I'm already waiting for when they come to Sincil Bank in a couple of weeks to give them a bit of grief. So I think they're going to struggle away from home potentially, Southampton. There were glimpses in the second half when they got into a bit of pattern of play and they had a bit of domination of the ball. But especially early on in games, they're really going to have to weather the storm. Now, they can flip that if their home fans get behind them. They can really turn St Mary's into a bit of a fortress. Now, maybe it's a little bit too early to say this weekend before we see it, just how on board the Southampton fans are going to be with Mr. Eckert and his men, bearing in mind what happened at the end of last season and potentially being denied a Premier League spot by the actions of their manager. So we probably want to see just how the home fans get behind them. If they turn it into a bit of a fortress, us against the world type sort of venue, then Southampton could be quite profitable at home this season, especially against sides like Stoke, who haven't started well last week, losing at home to Swansea, and possibly won't be up there challenging. So this is a bit of a watching brief, Pete. Southampton put a really strong performance in. They're moving forward. They could be a side to be with on home soil.
Interesting game. Look, coming up next, League One, Leicester against Burton. The handicap -1 here. Leicester, they're coming off a 1-1 draw away at Notts County. Again, we sort of pointed out last week, when the name recognition, everybody's sort of, thinking Leicester good, up -0.5 at home, away at Notts County, but obviously Notts County with a latish equaliser. Right, Burton, when they're +1 away from home, 1-2 drawn, 3 lost, 5. Only one of the 5 defeats were by 2 or more goals. So in 10 matches, they only lost in that handicap once. They're coming off a 1-1 draw at home to Stevenage. -1 goal over the last few seasons, 205 matches, 74 home, 65 push, 66 away. My rating's suggesting value Burton. However, 18th of July, these two sides had a friendly and Leicester won comfortably 3-0. And I think I'm going to go against my ratings here. And we know that Burton are good on these handicaps, but I'm going to go against that. And I think Leicester -1 goal could be the play here. First home game, there'll be a big crowd there, an expectant crowd, and I expect them to win comfortably.
Me too, Peter. I for the Substack, I wrote a column, the winners and losers of last weekend, and ironically, despite not winning the game at Notts County, I put Leicester down as one of my winners of last weekend. That was a very difficult trip to Meadow Lane. First game of the season, away to a newly promoted side, close local derby where the home fans viewed it more as a derby than Leicester did. It's never really been a rivalry in Leicester's minds, but it's Nottingham against Leicester, two big English conurbations very close together, and it was a frenzied atmosphere. Now, as many of you know, over the years, I've poo-pooed at times, Peter, the metrics and the statistics that go into games. But if you drill down into the metrics of last weekend's trip to to Notts County. Leicester absolutely battered them from a statistics perspective, from a ball possession, from entrances into the opponent's box. And if they repeat those figures, those types of performances week in, week out, Leicester will have no trouble in getting out of this division. Now, Burton seemed a little bit in disarray. Gary Bowyer is a very competent manager at this level. His relationship with the board and that seems to be breaking down a little bit. And the fact that they conceded the last minute equaliser at home to Stevenage last weekend really concerns me. Those are the sorts of little things that they need to cut out if they want to retain the status in this league for another season. They should have taken a win from that game, and they've actually slipped up on opening day and lost 2 points they should have taken. I'm with you, Pete. I like Leicester -1.
Now these next three games we've got, one in League One, two in League Two, are the reason why betting on these, stats, looking at stats and the handicaps, it just is all over the place. I mean, Wycombe against Plymouth. This game's off scratch. Recent head-to-heads, Wycombe have won one, been no draws. Plymouth have won two. However, historically, since 2007, there's been 22 meetings. Wycombe have won 10. Plymouth have won 7 and 5 have been draws. However, if we look at these stats, Wycombe, when they're off scratch at home, 1-3, drawn 1, lost 6. So they lost 6 of 10. They're coming off a 1-0 draw away at Blackpool. Not a bad result there. Plymouth, when they're off scratch away, 1-6, drawn 4, lost 0. So they've lost 0 of the 10 scratch matches in League One away. They're coming off a 3-1 defeat at home to Stockport. That would have been a bit disappointing, I think, for Plymouth. Scratch over the League One over the past 6 seasons. 533 matches, 186 home, 145 push, 202 away. So a lean to the away. You see, my ratings here are suggesting good value Wycombe, but the actual stats, when both sides are in this position, go completely against that. I just haven't got a clue what to put it, what to say here. I
Well,
think
it's
I would
interesting.
side with the away side.
Yeah, it's very interesting those sort of trends on Plymouth in this spot off scratch.
Yeah.
It kind of suggests to me that to make them scratch, the bookmakers have to really sort of like them in a way, and they make them a lot probably shorter than another team in another name would be. And often they have long trips away from home. Plymouth, they have a lot of geographical sort of barriers to overcome, and often they are priced longer than they probably should be. So often these games, as the line says, they probably should be minus quarter of a goal favourites for a lot of these games if they didn't have such barriers put in the way. Now, for this game, for me, Pete, I'm going to be interested at looking at the goals market. And I meant to say this when we first opened up, just very quickly, last weekend's results, under 2.5 goals. In the Championship, it went 3 and 9. In League Two, 5 and 7. And in League Two, it went 6 and 6. Lots of goals in the Championship, a few less in League One, and it was balanced in League Two. And I'm just wondering, some of these goal lines this weekend, if they're skewed more towards there being more goals expected than there probably will be, and whether this is down to the fact that the bookmakers are thinking there's going to be more ball in play time with these new rules. But we shall see. But what I will say is, last 7 meetings of these two sides have all seen an under 2.5 goals bet land. Goal line set at 2 3/4. Both sides had results that would probably um, disappoint them on opening day. Definitely Plymouth will be disappointed with the way they got beat at home by Stockport. Wycombe possibly thought they probably should have taken more from their trip to Blackpool. I like the under 2 3/4 goals here, Pete. I think this goal line is priced a quarter of a goal too high. So I'm taking the unders.
Next up, Salford against Chesterfield. Here's another game. Both sides started poorly, really. Salford lost away at Barnet 3-1, and Chesterfield lost 1-0 at home to Fleetwood. Minus a quarter of goal here. Recent head-to-heads, Chesterfield have won both the matches at Salford. When minus a quarter, Salford's record reads 1-5, drawn 3, lost 2, so not a bad record there. Chesterfield, when they're plus a quarter away from home, 1-2, drawn 2, lost 3. Minus a quarter goal, League Two, 867 matches, 392 home, 257 draw, 218 away. That makes 392 play 3-4-6, so a definite lean to the home. My rating's suggesting value Chesterfield, and indeed Chesterfield. When you historically head-to-head 7, there's been Chesterfield have won 5. There's been 1 draw, Salford 1-1, and yet Salford are the sort of favourites here. This again, is this a trap? I don't know, but I believe that you're going to say that Chesterfield are not should not be looked at here.
Well, I'm just beginning to get a little bit concerned about some of the players they've lost. Dobra, Banks, and I'm just wondering whether they're not going to be the side that perhaps we think they are, and maybe we're overstating the magic that Paul Cook can bring to Chesterfield. I mean, Salford opened the week odds on, minus a half a goal favourite. They trended out to minus a quarter. They're now currently at best price, 21 to 20, so 2.05 in the outright market. I think Salford will trade back odds on as the casual money starts coming in. When they see who they've got in their playing squad, the amount of money they've spent. But as we know, counted for nothing last week. They were comprehensively beaten at Barnet. But as we know, to our cost last season, Barnet are a side very well fancied under Dean Brennan, and Barnet are a very good League Two side and unit. So I don't think we can sort of put Salford down too much for losing down at Underhill or New Hive, whatever they want to call the stadium last weekend. I don't think when we look back at the end of the season, I don't think we'll, discredit them too much for that defeat. What we will say is Chesterfield should not be losing to Fleetwood. We talked about last week about concerns about Chesterfield not winning the game, but we highlighted that they just do not lose those games. Well, last week they did, and that is a big concern for me. Now, if we think Salford should finish in the top 6 in this spot against middle of the road sides, they win sort of 57% of games, these sorts of sides, and that's a 1.77 true price. There's clearly concerns about Salford, but I've got more concerns about Chesterfield, Pete. If I had to bet this game, I'll be betting Salford. Thankfully, we are not the bookmakers. We do not have to make a bet in every game. Probably watch this game, watch in brief. If Salford win, that's a massive tick in their box. And if Chesterfield don't put a performance in, given the fact that you outlined they've had success in their last few trips here, it's real warning signs time for the spy rides. So yeah, one to keep a close eye on, but not to get involved in.
Swindon, Chesterfield next. Recent head-to-head, Swindon have 1-0. Has been 1 draw. Cheltenham have 1. And indeed, this is another one. Historic meetings. Cheltenham have won 9, Swindon 4, and there's been 6 draws. So again, Cheltenham, again, name recognition. You would definitely be leaning to Swindon. Minus half a goal here. Swindon, when they're minus half a goal, 1-3, drawn 5, lost 2. So they've only won 3 of 10 when they're minus half a goal. They're kind of a 0-0 draw away at Northampton. Not a bad result, that, depending on how good Northampton are in this league. Cheltenham, plus half a goal, 1-1, drawn 2, lost 7, so that's poor, really. Coming off a good 2-1 victory at home to Rotherham. Minus half a goal, 552 matches, 265 home wins, 140 draws, 147 away. So that makes 265, play 287. My rating's suggesting small value Swindon. Again, this is a tricky looking one, I would say.
Well, I think this line might get to Swindon minus 3/4, Pete. And if it does, I'm going to be all over Cheltenham. Now, my birthday is on November the 14th. This isn't me trying to get you to put this in your diary so you can send me a card, Peter. But I actually think it's probably a 50-50 shot whether Ian Holloway will still be in charge of Swindon on my birthday. The sheen has come off him, the cheeky chappy that everybody loves at a club to begin with. And then it gradually begins to grate on supporters. And ironically, their goalless draw at Northampton last weekend, I think, was a really good result for them because I fancied them to really struggle. And the fact that they kept a clean sheet as well is a promising sign. But they've got an injury list as long as your arm, Pete. First game of the season. I generally have no idea how teams with the advances in medical science and that still have masses of injuries going into the opening day. And a lot of it is being blamed on Holloway's training regime. So there's already a lot of negativity around the club. Here they welcome in the Cheltenham side, buoyed by that opening day win, a proven manager in Steve Cottrell back at the helm. They Cheltenham won here 1-0 last season. Previous season the game ended 3 apiece. If a few early passes go astray, I think the county ground crowd will almost start to turn on their side to begin with. That is the reality of modern day sport and social media and the sort of negativity that's surrounding Swindon. I do want the plus 3/4, Pete, and I think we might get it. And if we do, I'll be taking Cheltenham.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that would be a good bet there. I mean, what interesting that you say about Swindon. Good result at Northampton last week. I was just discussing this the other day with someone. The difference now between the leagues is definite, isn't it? Premier League, Championship. There is definitely a difference there. Championship, League One. Well, it's a huge gulf, really. And now there's a difference between League One and League Two, isn't there? There wasn't so much earlier, but there is now.
No, there certainly is. Um, and this is why teams are fighting so hard and spending such ridiculous amounts of money in many ways to try and get out of League Two, um, because there is a pathway. I mean, teams like Lincoln have proven it. If you can run your club properly, there is a pathway to work your way up, and it's not necessarily always about money. Money obviously helps. Money is the driver of a lot of things, but you can structure your club well and progress through the leagues.
Yes, I mean, I think though that I'm getting the feeling that like money is ruining the game a little bit at the lower level. Well, it is for Peterborough. I mean,
Yeah.
they're good. They're Posh are a well-run club, really. They go within their means, but when you're up against these conglomerates, it's a difficult one. I mean, Spalding are owned by one of the richest men in England. And you can see that these clubs are League One. They're all owned by multi billionaires, aren't they?
Yeah, and as you say, even a club like Peterborough with a really well respected and well trodden business model of get players in on the cheap, coach them up, sell them on. If you're then up against sides that are being bankrolled or
Yeah.
heavily invested in by crypto billionaires or American hedge fund managers, even if you've got that well run model of buying players in cheap and selling them on, you're still not going to generate as much income as those other teams who are just being gifted it.
Yeah, you see, I reckon it wouldn't surprise me if with these meetings that they're having, if the championship becomes like Premier Two, and then the rest of the football is dealt slightly different. But you can't help market forces, can you? If somebody wants to buy a club, they'll buy one, won't they?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if the Championship starts being marketed as something like Premier League Two or whatever, we'll still know it as, I still call it Division Two. I still call League Premier League, you know, First Division in me head. It's like whatever you want to call Sincil Bank, Lincoln Stadium, or what is it, Pro Ampac
But
Stadium there,
but
which is in the LNE.
but
I'll still call it what I call it.
But what I'm saying is though that is that like this season when some of them are saying that if they went and got a loan player from the Premier League or something, he's after a centre back. He's after 11,000-12,000 pounds a week, and that's not sustainable for the rest of
No.
the
Well,
team, etc.
some of the
So they would
rumours
have their
about,
what they're looking for is a cap
yeah.
effectively, but that will get thrown out of court, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, the rumours of what like Macaulay Langstaff's on at Salford, like 10 grand a week or whatever. You're talking about
Yeah.
a team that's probably going to play the majority of the season in front of less than 2,500, their home games, and their centre forward is getting 10 grand a week.
Mm, mm.
Ridiculous, not
Right.
sustainable.
let's have a look at this then. I've got one this week, and it's got to be Leicester minus 1 goal at home to Burton. I just don't see anything other than a Leicester victory here.
Well, Leicester as well, Pete. But for the purposes of the podcast, I'm going to take under 2 3/4 goals in the Wycombe Wanderers against Plymouth Argyle game down at Adams Park.
Right, just before we go off again, it's what's the Substack address, Jimmy?
It's at Jimmy Kempton Bets. A column has just landed out, I think. Let me just check that it has gone out. Okay, all this scheduling malarkey. Yeah, a League Two game preview of Colchester against Oldham. I have a few other things going out before the weekend. A look at the way the market prices have moved during the week. That'll be out on Saturday morning. Obviously, the podcast and everything will be up tomorrow. So, yeah, lots going on, folks. Really enjoying doing it for you all.
Right, and we shall be back next week. So best of luck, everybody.
Best of luck, everybody.